When you think of rioting in Detroit, your mind likely goes to the events that unfolded in the summer of 1967. Detroit is no stranger to civil disturbances, especially those relating to race. That said, this video is about events that many will have not heard of, but were close to detonating in a similar fashion to those that occurred in 1943 or 1967, events that took the lives of 34 and 43 respectively and caused millions in damages. This story, rooted in racism, the shortcomings of capitalism, and fear of the unknown, starts near the intersection of Livernois and Chalfont on Detroit's west side. To set the scene, despite occurring just 8 years after the events in 1967, Detroit was already a much different place. Population decline was starting to hit the city's pocketbook, leaving some without adequate city services and neighborhoods without proper funding. The auto industry, Detroit's largest employer, was in crisis thanks to foreign competition and automation, leaving many without jobs or resources to gain new skills. The Detroit Police Department's relationship with the communities it served was strained thanks to operations like Stress, short for Stop the Robberies, Enjoy Safe Streets, which disproportionately targeted black residents from 1971 until 1974, when it was disbanded after Coleman A. Young was elected mayor. No neighborhood in Detroit was blind to these issues, especially those near Livernois and Chalfont. Bob Bolton's bar was a staple for University of Detroit students and was known for its good burgers and St. Patrick's Day celebrations with corned beef, cabbage, and green beer. At some point, Andrew Chinarian purchased the bar. A white man, he was often called stern, and he was known to take matters into his own hands and occasionally shoot hoops with local kids. On July 28, 1975, just over a half-century ago, Chinarian walked out back and saw a group of kids near a customer's white Chrysler Newport. There had been some problems with car theft in the area, so Chinarian asked what the boys were doing and reportedly called those inside the bar to assist him. One of the boys, Obie Anthony Wynn, an 18-year-old, ran behind the car. Chinarian fired a shot, striking the young man in the back of the head. The bar owner claimed he had seen something shiny in the youth's hand and assumed it was a gun. Wynn was taken to the hospital and died from the bullet wound, leaving behind a girlfriend and a 2-year-old daughter. News of the incident traveled quickly, and within hours, a large crowd had formed outside the bar. The group soon became unruly, and Detroit police were called to the scene. Chinarian had to be escorted out of his bar by officers as the protesters surrounded the building. He was taken downtown and released the same day without being charged with any crimes. The group on Livernois, now swelling in size, began throwing rocks, harassing officers, looting, and a few structures were set on fire. Various black community and political leaders, including then-Mayor Coleman A. Young, were on the scene trying to calm the protesters. Young ordered Detroit police not to fire their weapons, which he felt could escalate the situation. Eventually, police were ordered to use tear gas to disperse the crowd. During the night, an innocent white man named Marian Pyszko was dragged from his car at Fenkell and Quincy on his way home from work. He was beaten, kicked, and hit with chunks of concrete. Among his injuries, the left side of his skull caved in, and he died 3 days later. Pyszko came to the United States in 1951 from Poland. He served in World War II and was incarcerated in a Nazi prison camp. He had a wife and 2 sons and was the only other casualty during the disturbance. The following day, Chinarian reported to the police station with his attorney and answered more questions about what happened. At that time, he was arrested for second-degree murder. Many believe that officials were put under pressure due to the protesters at Livernois and Chalfont. However, the bond was set at a mere $500. Many of the protesters referenced that it was the bond for a loiterer, not a murderer. It was later raised. You let a brother kill a white man and see how quick he gets out of jail, if he ever gets there in the first place, emanated from megaphones. Police fired no shots during the entire saga, and Bob Bolton's bar survived, albeit tattered. Services for Wynn were held at James H. Cole Funeral Home, and over 200 people attended. Mayor Young and numerous community members attended the funeral for Pyszko. The incident and the court cases that followed were covered nationwide, as Detroit was still seen as a symbol of urban unrest. As the old adage goes, if it bleeds, it leads. And Detroit was bleeding. In the courtroom, Chinarian's defense was that he was trying to make a citizen's arrest and fired a warning shot. He never meant to kill Wynn. Some reports said that he only had vision in one eye, which could have resulted in poor aim. Typically, a warning shot is about the noise of the bullet, not actually aiming it at someone. On January 31, 1976, Chinarian was found guilty of reckless use of a firearm resulting in death, a high misdemeanor charge. In addition to $5,000 in court costs and $300 in probation fees, Chinarian would serve 6 months in the Detroit House of Corrections and spend 3 years under supervision on probation. While awaiting an appeal, Chinarian told the Detroit Free Press that he had been used as a political pawn and that business at his bar was better than ever. Meanwhile, a series of trials were underway against the Livernois Five. Initially, charges were brought against 6 black men for the murder of Marian Pyszko. Dennis Lindsay, the 6th member of the group, quickly had his charges dropped. His attorney was Kenneth Cockrell, who would be integral in disbanding the Detroit Police Department's stress unit and later sit on Detroit's City Council. Most accounts recall that there wasn't enough evidence to convincingly prove that the 5 men were the ones who murdered Marian Pyszko. Raymond Peoples, one of the 5, was known to the police as one of the founding members of Young Boys Incorporated, a drug organization with a national reputation. In the time between the murder and his sentencing, Chinarian was released after paying a heftier bond and could reopen his bar and live a reasonably normal life. However, those accused of murdering Pyszko were held without bond. 2 trials of the Livernois Five resulted in a hung jury, and all the men were acquitted in the third. On February 26, 1976, the Ann Arbor Sun printed an op-ed that read, "There is no way to condone the beating death of Marian Pyszko, the white man who perished in the violence following the Chinarian shooting. But even if those currently being prosecuted for the slaying are in fact the culprits, it's difficult to demand stern justice for them when Andrew Chinarian's outrageous actions are dealt with so lightly." The events that historians now call the Livernois Fenkel Riot caused 2 deaths, Wynn and Pyszko. This is significantly less than the 43 in 1967 and 34 in 1943, or even the 8 casualties in 1990 after the Detroit Pistons won the NBA Finals, which may be why it isn't as widely known outside of the local area. In the years after the disturbance, the former bar, pictured here, was used by a real estate company and a music store. When I first documented this building a few years ago, I spoke to a man working at the corner tire shop. He asked what I was taking photos of, and I told him I was interested in an old bar a few buildings down. He replied, "You mean Bolton's?" There was a silence, and he looked down for a moment before his eyes returned to mine. "Yeah, we all know about Bolton's. I haven't figured out what happened to Andrew Chinarian, though if he were still alive, he'd be close to 90. Obie's daughter would be just a touch over 50 years old. If you didn't know better, you probably wouldn't guess that this nondescript building had such an unsettling history. Do you think a marker should be placed here to note that history, or are some stories better left untold? I think there should be a marker here honoring Obie and Marian. Did you know about this story, and what do you think it means 50 years later? If you want to read more about this incident, I have a full written piece linked in the description below. The University of Michigan has some resources on it, and Wayne State has some images online. It never ceases to amaze me how much history we have in Detroit and how much of it is not marked. If you want to support the channel, you can look in the description below to buy one of the t-shirts that I've designed or get a print from my print store. If you enjoyed this, please throw a like on the video, drop a comment down below about what you thought about this piece, and subscribe to the channel for a new video every Friday. Until next time, this building matters.